So you may have already seen a video where I showed you how I was using Jamboard in my classroom. And today I wanted to show you how to actually go about making your own Jamboard. So when you open your Google Drive folder and you go over to New, you will see the things that you're probably more familiar with. But if you click on More, you will see Google Jamboard is an option. So if you go ahead and open a new one, the first thing you want to do is title it. So I'm going to title mine Conductors and Insulators. So, I'm going to be starting to teach a new unit on electricity pretty soon. So I wanted to make some sort of Jamboard so that I can check in with kids where they're at and do it as an opening or closing activity for a class. So my first stage is, what do I want the Jamboard to look like? Now, because I teach mostly 9th grade, I find it helpful if on each slide I have a template, and then they just have to fill in that template. So I'm going to show you how I make those templates. If you want the things you make to be draggable, then you want to build it on Jamboard. I like it as a background image in most situations. So I actually will go to my Google Drive again, and I'm going to start with a Google Drawing. Okay. For the Google Drawing to fit well with Jamboard, you're going to want to set it up as a 16 by 9 screen, and now it's basically the same size as the Jamboard. And now you will just go ahead and edit it like you would any image. So maybe I'm going to call this Jamboard. So here I'm just going to have them compare conductors and insulators. And maybe you want to call attention to certain areas by, you can change the color of the text. So maybe these questions I will highlight in red to call attention to it. So I think in this case, I'm going to include some draggable images. For example, I think here I'm going to put in a draggable battery and a draggable light bulb, and also an image here of a light bulb that they can draw on. So you can see here that I cleaned up the Jamboard a little bit. I've changed some of the text to purple just to make it stand up. This is all a text box. You can see how I'm sliding it around, but because I'm putting it as a drawing, the students will not be able to slide it around. And here's an image, again, that will be fixed in place for the students when it's their turn to fill this in. So I wanted to have this image of the light bulb as a background image because I wanted the kids to be able to draw on top of it. So they can draw the current coming in through the side, up through the filament, and down. I'll go ahead and title this Conductors and Insulators Jamboard image. Now, in order to be able to actually put this image I made into the Jamboard, I need to export it. So I'm going to download it as a PNG image. Okay, and then it's going to go into my download folder. So then I'm going to go back to my Jamboard, and in here I'm going to set the background. Sorry, I'm going to add an image, and I'm going to browse and pick it from my download folder. Kind of drag it to fill up the entire space. So in this space here, I want to have images that are draggable. So I'm going to have to add them after I've put this entire template down. I now need to add the images separately, and then they will also be draggable. So I'm actually going to have to go this way. Go through Google image search here. I'm going to type in light bulb. And I'm going to look for one that includes a filament. Ooh, this one's nice. It's got a picture of the filament. You can kind of see how things are connected. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that image. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing with a battery. So this way they can actually drag the battery and have it touch the light bulb to become part of the circuit, if I'd ask them to just use one wire, for example. So because you're going to be using this in a class and you want each group of kids to have their own slide, you're going to want to come up towards the slide number up here. And it'll show you, I've already made the copies, but if I hadn't, how you make copies of a slide is you're going to come up here and click on these three dots and then click duplicate. And that will give you multiple versions of the slide. You want the number of slides to match the number of breakout rooms that you have. So depending if you want 2 or 3 kids per room, then you would do the math accordingly to figure out how many different slides that you want. I always tell kids to have their breakout room number match their slide number. So if your breakout group number 3, then you would go to slide number 3. And if your breakout room number 4, you would go to slide number 4. And that way they can easily find which slide they should be working on and editing. Okay, so now I have my slide completely constructed. I've got enough copies so that each breakout room will have its own copy. Now I'm going to show you how to actually share it with your kids so that they can edit it. Okay, I'm going to move to, and I have a folder saved in Google Drive where everything in that folder is shared with my students. I have one that's shared and one where they have edit access. And I have every single one of my students have the share settings for that entire folder. So therefore, if I drag and drop conductors versus insulators Jamboard into this folder that says students can edit, I'm going to move it there. Now it'll be visible to everyone in that group that is shared with it. So now that I have this Jamboard in the folder that my students can edit, I need to make a copy of it. And that way I can make a version of it so that I have one that my first period class can edit, one that my second period class can edit, and it doesn't come with answers pre-filled. And I want to make sure I save one also that will be my template. So maybe this original one here, I will rename as my template. Okay. So I would just keep doing make a copy and changing the name to match my section number or name so that I have one for each class to work on and it doesn't come pre-filled. Okay, to actually give my students the actual assignment, I find the fastest way is I right-click on the assignment, and then I'm going to go to this button, Get Link, and then I copy and paste that link into where the assignment is stored. So I'll get a link here, and then in my case, I use Canvas, and here's their actual assignment. So when the students open the assignment, they see that we're doing a Jamboard and they know that they're going to go to the correct link for their class, and then they will look at their breakout room number and go to that slide. So one last thing I wanted to show you was how I made these draggable boxes. and kind of a hack of how you can get things off of a worksheet that you've maybe used in the past. So, a really useful hack to get things off of a worksheet that maybe you did with traditional scissors and glue in the past is if you can pull up that worksheet on your screen, whether it's a PDF or a Word doc or a Google Doc, this technique should work. Type in snip. It's going to give you the option here of a snipping tool. And then you're going to just click new. Now you highlight what it is you want to make an image of. So this is now automatically my clipboard. So I could open a new document and just push Control V and this image would go there. In this case, because I want to put it on a Jamboard, I would need to file, save as an image, like this would be Alien 1. And then I could go to my Jamboard and insert the image that way. It is a little time consuming, but you can then have draggable things that kids can sort on a Jamboard for an activity.